Overdose football fix.
This is Carmel Bear, and you're listening to the Hidden Oaks Overdose Football Fix.
It is Saturday. It is Saturday, October 8th, 2022, 8 a.m. sharp. It's beautiful. I can see beautiful fall leaves in front of me. Everyone's starting to turn brown and yellow and orange. I love it. But hello, everybody, and welcome to the Hidden Oaks Overdose Football Fix podcast. I am one of your lovely hostesses, the Garlic Johnson. We are joined, as always, by your other lovely hostess, the Hamburglar. Hamburglar, how you doing?
I'm doing good.
What are these impressions? We got
I don't know what the Hamburglar sounds like.
we got the Discord. You can to see the segment start times down in the description below. And thank you, Levi Oki, for all the beautiful art you can see. Josh, how we doing this morning?
Hi, darn. How are you, Gar?
I'm doing good. I heard you only woke up 20 minutes ago. You were afraid you weren't even going to make the show. What the hell's up with that, man? I thought you were more dedicated than that.
Well, I just, couldn't get to sleep, couldn't stay asleep. Alarm went off.
Isn't that the story of your whole life, though?
Yeah. And then when my alarm went off, I pushed the power button instead of the snooze button. So, big brain me.
Big brain.
But thankfully, I have a loving wife and a loud child who decided to come in and wake me up at 7:25, 7:30ish.
Wow, what a lovely bunch.
Yeah, some would say the best.
Would you say that, Josh? Are you really gonna work hard to save face because you can see that your wife is currently listening?
She has it on mute. Yeah, no, I
just pumping up her
I
numbers.
would say that. Yep.
Love you, Nikita.
How are you, Gar?
I'm doing good. Like I said, I really do enjoy, like right now I can see outside my window here because my computer's up against my window. Probably not the great for audio and acoustics and whatnot, but I do, like the sun is just rising over the back of my apartment building. I'm on the west side. And, yeah, it does. It's a beautiful fall landscape right in front of me because if the computer screens kind of block the building, so it almost, if I didn't know any better, I'm just like sitting here in the forest almost. So it is a beautiful fall sight. But, and I also, there was a farmer's market on Thursday night as I was leaving my work. It was the last little farmer's market of the night. And I didn't go there and buy vegetables and fruits and all the responsible things you buy at farmer's markets because there's a couple cute old Amish ladies who had a bunch of baked goods. It's like, give me all that. I got some cinnamon rolls. I got some pumpkin bread. So I have way too many, carb sweets in the house right now, but I did help support the local economy through some cash to the Amish so they can, keep, marginalizing women and all that. So, I feel like I did my part. Yeah, exactly. Oh, yeah. No, but I'm doing good.
Good. See, I thought, as the city slicker I am, that when you said farmers market Amish ladies, that you bought yourself some Amish ladies.
Well, Josh, it's always a consideration. There's going to be a certain point in my life where I get lonely enough to get real desperate, and it's kind of a wild card to see what I'll start doing in that phase of life. Luckily, we aren't there yet, and let's just hope we never get there, Josh.
That's when you shave your head completely bald, get a head tattoo, buy a tricycle, and just start rolling around the neighborhood.
I'm in.
Yeah. So, start sit last week. Once again, 3-5, but this time with a negative 6.8 point differential. Big swings and misses for us. We picked Mark Andrews over Travis Kelce, which, a lot of people would at this point in the season, but Travis Kelce had a game, Andrews did not. And so that was kind of the big 21-point swing there. We also picked George Kittle, which was just a disaster because he is trash. He is a trash panda on Trash Panda Land. And J.K. Dobbins put up 18 more points than him. So those were the two big misses. So unfortunately, if you listen to us, you lost 6.8 points over what you could have had. But overall, we're still doing all right. We're 12 and a half out of 20. We'll just say 12 to make Al feel better about how he criticized us. We're 12 out of 20 with a plus 33.65, so we're still in the green. But yeah, so I guess moving right on into the table since we are running a little bit early. But who cares? We've got Giselle's ex versus Giselle's next. Brady versus Atlanta or Burrow versus Baltimore at Baltimore.
Can I ask why Burrow is Giselle's next out of everyone? Zach Wilson, Antonio Brown. There's a lot of possibilities out there. Why Burrow?
Just because Joey Cool. He's got that fur coat, I think, and I don't know. He's a handsome young feller.
All right. Nikita, watch out. Josh has been eyeing up Macaulay Culkin.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, who do you got?
Well, I mean, Josh, we know I love to look at the tail of the tape. So Brady, in his last 4 performances, he was only 11 fantasy points, 16 or 17 fantasy points, and then 31 against KC. Of course, they were behind that entire game. Brady had 52 pass attempts that game, 3 touchdowns though. Atlanta, Brady's been beaten up on Atlanta his whole career. I believe he's like 7-0 or 7-1 against Atlanta all time in his career. So he should be able to beat up Atlanta just fine. The real question is, what kind of team is Atlanta? I don't know. I don't think Brady will put up another 30 fantasy points. I'm guessing he's going to be somewhere in the 20 range. Whereas Joe Burrow, he's been 17, 18, 29, and 24 playing Baltimore. I think Joe Burrow is going to have to pass more. So I've talked about this a million times on the show, so I won't get into it greatly. But it's always like, I never know, do I pick the guy in the shootout or do I pick the guy who has the easy win? But you never know whether or not he's going to run up his stats or not. Because Brady's obviously playing the easier team against Atlanta. The Buccaneers, in theory, should be able to absolutely demolish the Falcons. But does that mean Brady's going to have a really good fantasy day? I don't know. To me, in this situation, I think I'd always opt for Joe Burrow in the shootout. But that's just me.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you on this one. I was leaning Burrow as well because of the shootout. Brady's a little banged up. It sounds like he's got a sore shoulder or a rotator cuff in. And so he's been on the injury report. I do think that Burrow's been kind of hitting his stride earlier or now after the first couple of weeks. And so I think he's only been sacked once last week, and then that's quite a shocking difference from the first 3. So I would go Burrow.
All right, welcome to the club, fam. We got Burrow over Baltimore instead of Brady. Sorry, Brady. Enjoy the bench. All right, you've got some surprises here, Josh, in our next one. No one really thought Singletary was going to be doing shit. He's playing that Pittsburgh Steelers defense, though. Love to hear what Eric thinks about Singletary in the chat. Otherwise, we got Rashad Penny, who should have been injured 6 times by now this season. He's playing Nolans. So 2, like you said, kind of surprising running backs playing 2 stouter-ish defenses. Both the Nolans Saints and the Pittsburgh Steelers are garbage teams this year, but the defenses would be the best thing about them. So we got Singletary or we got Penny, Josh. Who do you think? Oh, Eric's left. Oh, no.
Yeah, you hurt his feelings.
Well, his team's bad.
I would say, I guess for both of these, I did pick it because of the defense. Obviously, Pitt's defense dealing with a couple injuries there. The big one being the TJ Watt. But New Orleans run defense has been okay, I guess, throughout the season. This one kind of here is a coin flip for me, just because Singletary's been getting some of the passing work out of the backfield as well. So since we do play in a PPR league, and that's kind of what we base the scoring off of, that's something to keep into consideration with the defense kind of struggling without Watt. And then, but Penny does catch the ball as well, and we know Geno's been lighting it up. So. And then Penny's coming off a really solid week last week. So I guess, like I said, it's a coin flip for me. I don't know how you're leaning. Maybe you could sway me to lean one way or another.
In Detroit, obviously, was a very easy defense for Penny and the boys, Geno and the boys to beat up last week. 28 points is obviously great, propped up a little bit by 2 tuds. But otherwise, Penny hasn't been that great. I'm going to lead Singletary just because, even though I think the Pittsburgh Steelers defense is a little bit better than those Nolans Saints, I think the Bills offense overall is greater. And so that, a high tide rises all boats. I like Devin Singletary if I had to pick between the 2.
That's fair. I'll go with Singletary then. I'll ride with you.
Thanks, pal.
Moving on, we've got the wide receiver nuns. Not necessarily because they're bad, but just because they haven't been producing as much as people had thought during the earlier or preseason. We've got Adam Thielen versus Chicago or Juju Smith-Schuster versus Las Vegas. Car? take us away.
Well, like you said, kind of Adam Thielen's been pretty disappointing this year so far. His targets have increased every game though, so I mean he's always on the field. His snap shares are 95% or higher in every game. Week 1 against Green Bay, 4 targets. Against Philly, week 2, 7 targets. Detroit, 8 targets. Nolans, 9 targets. And so with that, his receptions have gone up 3, 4, 6, and 8 as well. His yardage has gone up every single game. He only has 1 touchdown on the year, but I mean they're definitely. You can see consistent growth in Thielen's opportunities between targets and receptions. Obviously, sometimes Thielen will get a ball where he has to go make something out of it, get some yak. Sometimes, he'll just get tackled right away. But, I mean, obviously, Thielen's trending in the right direction. You go over to Juju. He has had, pretty consistently 8 targets. Week 2 against the Chargers, he had 3 targets. Otherwise, in week 1, week 3, and week 4, he's had 8 targets, 6 receptions, 3 receptions, 5 and 5, respectively. So Juju has been very consistent, whereas Adams growing. And then you got to look at the opponents. Las Vegas, they just held, I mean, I hate to say it, but the Broncos might be the worst team in the NFL, but they held the Broncos pretty respectively on defense, whereas we're playing the Chicago defense. I don't know if they're any good anymore. Obviously, that used to be the case 5 years ago when they had Khalil Mack and the boys, and then, we all saw the double doink. But I would prefer Thielen, I guess. But I definitely wouldn't be afraid to ride with you on Juju just because that Chiefs game and the Chiefs-Vegas game should be a bit of a shootout as well. But Thielen, I'm seeing growth, so I'd like the growth.
Yep. No, I'm going to go. I'm fine with Thielen. When I put these in there, that's the way I was leaning already. So that is fine by me just because, like you said, he has been getting more targets. They can't just force it to Justin Jefferson. But, you'd hope that they don't just try that because it didn't really work. Well, it hasn't worked out other than last week. It did kind of start to click. But, I would say I would be fine going with Thielen in this one because Chicago's defense is duty. So we can lock that one in. Next one, we've got a couple.
Josh, please. Next one, we've got a couple of Week 5 waivers. We almost guarantee you didn't draft these guys in your draft back when the season started, but they have proved themselves to be, if nothing else, some beautiful streaming options for your tight end positions. We've got Gerald Everett, who's been doing pretty okay for the Chargers. He's playing at Cleveland this week, and then we've got David Njoku. He's playing, he's playing home versus the Chargers. So we got people on the field, not at the same time. One will be sitting on the bench while the other one's marching up and down the field, but got a couple of boys playing each other, a couple surprise tight ends this year. Josh, who do you like between Gerald Everett or David Njoku?
Well, see, I picked these ones just because, like you said, they're guys who are making a big shock. Njoku has had a couple big games. Everett, I believe, has at least in a standard league, Everett is considered the tight end 4 at this point in the season, so it's still early, but that's still top 4, top 5, top 4, and that's a pretty good offense. They're starting to click, it seems, especially since Eckler got involved last week. They are playing at Cleveland, who is a little bit stingier against the tight end than the Chargers, I believe. But he gets the target share. So I believe his lowest targets was week 1 or 2 with 4, and then ever since then he's had 6. Which is, it's not a lot. It's not Devontae Adams with Rodgers targets, but it's, 6 targets, and he seems to make the most out of them. Njoku, I don't know the stats off the top of my head, but I do know that a couple weeks ago he had a solid game, and I think last week he had an okay game as well. And so I'm leaning, I guess I'm going to lean Njoku just because of the matchup and because I have Everett in a standard league, so everybody knows my tight end position is going to stink because I have Kyle Pitts in that league as well.
All right. You're right. It definitely seems like Everett has a bit of the safer floor. He's had 4 targets, 10 targets, 6 and 6 respectively. He has 2 touchdowns in the year, 1 in week 1, 1 in week 4. And Njoku, he started out slow, 1 reception, and then 3 receptions, but his targets have been rising. He went from 1 target to 5 targets to 10 to 7. So Njoku did have that big game that we all watched on Thursday night, Pittsburgh last week, or 2 weeks ago at this point, I guess, week 3. You are right though in your point that the Cleveland Browns are the 7th best defense against tight ends, whereas the Chargers are the 13th best defense against tight ends. So Njoku, it does have the better matchup defensively. I'm not afraid to go Njoku with you here because you said the defense is a little bit stiffer. I mean, Keenan Allen is out yet again, which is something to consider, but Keenan Allen was also out against the Jacksonville Jaguars, and in that game, Gerald Everett only had 2 receptions for 25 yards, which is a pretty depressing stat line. So, I mean, I think they're both pretty solid options. We have, Gerald Everett's currently the tight end 4. David Njoku's the tight end 12 in standard scoring. Otherwise, there's 6 and 11 in PPR, but I'd say they're pretty similar, but horse apiece to me. I'll take Njoku with you, Josh. I'm not afraid.
Wow. Thanks, Gar.
Moving on to the last. I know.
Yeah. Moving on to the next one, we have the flex appeal. So guys who are, who would probably be considered good flexes if you had them and you're solid in other positions. So we've got Mike Williams at Cleveland. So yet again, another Charger, probably going to be taking the reins since, like you mentioned, Keenan Allen is out. Gabe Davis, who I think is playing this week. He had injuries. He's been a little bit disappointing, but he has, after that week 1 performance, he's got what it takes. And I think we had him in one of these spots last week too. And then Zeke at Los Angeles. So Zeke, he's he's supposedly the starting running back for that team. He's had some solid weeks. He did look a little bit better last week than he did in prior weeks, just based on the eye test. But so we've got three options here: two wide receivers, 1 running back. Gar, give me it.
Well, I do like my Mike Dubs, and he has seen an uptick since Keenan Allen's been he's had, since Keenan Allen's been gone, he's had 10 targets, 6 targets, and 11 targets for 8 receptions, only 1 against Jacksonville. But then again, 7 receptions against Houston. Jacksonville is probably the toughest defensive opponent they've played so far this year, and Cleveland isn't going to be too stout. So immediately popping off the tape to me is going to be Mike Williams. He's the wide receiver 21, no matter how you cut it in standard or in PPR. Then you go to Gabe Davis. He's been, pretty disappointing this year. 5 targets for 4 receptions. Missed the Tennessee game, or at least was held without a catch. Miami, he had 6 targets for 3 receptions. And then Baltimore, a game that was ugly for some reason. Thought it would be more of a shootout than it was. He had only 3 targets for 1 reception. He's cleared for week 5. He was banged up on his ankle, but in the last, counting the game, I don't know if he missed the Tennessee game or if he just didn't get targeted or whatever, but I guess he'd probably have a snap share, so he missed the Tennessee game. But in the last 2 weeks, he's only had less than 10 fantasy points. I'd say that's pretty disappointing. I'd like to stay away from Gabe Davis. I think Isaiah McKenzie's banged up. Jamison Crowder went to IR, so maybe Gabe Davis will have more opportunities. Dawson Knox is also hurt, but I don't know. Gabe Davis has looked disappointing so far, so that means he'll put up 3 tuds this week. And Zeke, obviously Zeke, we know what the story there is. Dak's out, so people aren't really respecting Cooper Rush. Maybe that'll change this week. Obviously, the Rams have been a stiffer defense as well with Aaron Donald stuffing up the middle, but all these defenses are pretty much like, all right, we know Zeke and Pollard are some boys. We're going to put, 7 guys in the box, and Cooper Rush is going to have to beat us. And to Cooper Rush's credit, he has been slanging that thing. But I'm not worried about Zeke. Obviously, he is having a slower start. But when your starting quarterback goes out, and you've played, at least 2 good defenses in Tampa Bay, and people don't want to admit it, but the Giants are a good defense, and he had a good day against them. So. If I had to pick between the 3, I like Mike Williams. If you're going to make me rank them, I'll go Mike Williams, Ezekiel Elliott, then Gabe Davis. But I do acknowledge the fact that Gabe Davis has plenty of upside. I just don't want to touch it.
Yeah, no, I would agree. Since Keenan Allen's out, Mike Williams at Cleveland. I think that game has the potential to be more of a shootout just because the run game for Cleveland is going to carry them against the Chargers' rush defense. I would say that the Rams defense is probably going to stifle Zeke pretty hard. And so that is something that I would take into consideration. I personally, of these 3, I think it's kind of Mike Williams 1 and then the other 2 tied at 4. Like I probably wouldn't touch the other 2. So
how dare you?
But yeah, that's just me. So it sounds like we're both on Mike Williams' train there.
Yeah, that's fine. That's right.
Choo choo. Yeah, let's ride. Broncos country. Let's hide.
All right, Josh. Anything else? We didn't get any start sits in the chat or anything, so you want to just keep her moving?
Keep it going.
All right, we're moving on to our little FanDuel section here. We got some FanDuel favorites. Josh, I talked a lot recently. Who do you like first in FanDuel this week?
Well, I liked I like to pick just one guy, just because I don't want to give away all my secrets. Um, Coming in, as a top 4 scorer last week, no big deal. But I got George Pickens at Buffalo, 5,500, low price.
Wow!
Probably
That's a low price!
has a lot to do with the fact he's going up against the Buffalo defense, which is really good. So that is kind of the one thing that was kind of making me hesitant on it. But then you look at his target share; he's got that Devontae Adams numbers or the Green Bay Devontae target share where it's in the 30s. Trubisky targeted him 14 times in the 3.5 games he played. Pickett targeted him 5 times in 1/2. So it's, I think Pickett has that kind of comfort with him, both being rookies and all. Plus, like you said, he's always open. So I think that Pickens is a solid play, especially because that price shouldn't scare you away. Or the price should draw you in if the defense scares you away. So, you're not spending a whole lot of your budget on him because of that. So I have Pickens.
Pickens, all right. I'm not afraid of Pickens. I mean, we know that they have three people beat up back there in that Buffalo secondary, I should say specifically. So I hear what you're saying there. I forget the name of their safety, but their safety's out yet again, and he has 4 picks on the year. I believe. I could be missing and matching players. What's that?
Is it Jordan Poyer?
Yeah, I think so.
He played last week. Why is he out this week?
Oh, maybe he's... I think I'm confusing. Someone else with the last name that starts with P is out this week. I don't know. I'm mixing and matching my fantasy in my brain right now. My RAM is failing. But yeah, I see Pickett. I think people are a little overemphasizing what Kenny Pickett did in 1/2 of football that he wasn't prepared to play. So, I mean, I'm not saying Pickens couldn't be a guy, but let's not freak out over 30 minutes of play. But I hear what you're saying. I understand the excitement. I've always just kind of been an anti-hype guy. I don't know, sue me. This week, I like Curtis Samuel for 5,800. Obviously, Carson Wentz is a absolute wild card, but Curtis Samuel has been a target hog, and I think he was, even though he's been playing, he's been banged up, but I think he's healthier coming into this week. And then I like Tyler Algier, 5,700. They're playing the Tampa Bay defense, so I can understand why people would be scared away again, but he's playing in the Scott Fish Bowl. For anyone who pays attention, like online fantasy community, Scott Fish has had a semi-famous fantasy league going for a while. Tyler Algier is our participant in that league. He drafted himself in like the 9th round, and Tyler Algier is finally playing himself this week for the first time. So I thought that's worthy enough for me to put him in my lineup. We'll see. Why not? 5,700 is a pretty good price, and if he goes off, then I'll be happy about it. But I understand why people would be scared because that Tampa Bay defense is pretty stat. Josh?
I'm scared no Tampa.
All right. FanDuel
moving
bust.
on to the best segment of the week. I don't think we've tracked any of it, but who cares?
I was right about Jalen Hurts last week. I know that. He only put up like 17 fantasy points. So Jalen Hurts was an absolute bust last week. Called it.
Yeah, and I think I was right, too. I think I listed off everybody that didn't score what they were projected. So, yeah, I did good.
Good job, Josh.
But for my bust of the week, I've got the guy that I had as a stud last week, TJ Hawkinson. I don't know if Amon-Ra is playing. Last I saw, he was still questionable, but he did get a limited practice in. It sounds like DJ Chark is out. And so I think that, last week he was 5,600. This week he's 700. Obviously last week, steal of the FanDuel. This week, he's going up against New England, which has a pretty solid defense, likes to switch things up. Jared Goff is, I think he's more of a, if this defense is more of a single kind of look, kind of consistent look, he'd do better. But with New England, they switch things up a bit, so I think he's going to struggle as well. So I've got Hawkinson as the bust of the week.
All right, Josh, and I didn't want to have to do it, but I didn't see too many other busts I like other than CMC, and we've been hitting the CMC bust for a while, so I had to go somewhere else. I'm riding with you on the Detroit bust this week. Goff, 8,000. I mean, me and Al have been going back and forth on whether or not Jared Goff is truly a QB1. He's put up a lot of numbers against some. I mean, he put up numbers against the Eagles defense, which we're all surprised about, but I don't like Jared Goff very much. I think Billy B will have his number today, especially was Matt Patricia there with Jared Goff or no? For 1 year?
I don't think so.
Okay,
no.
Never mind. I was gonna say maybe he'd have some inside information, but I'm wrong. Either way, I think Billy B will have Goff's number. I don't think he'll be worth 8,000 for sure. So I'm calling Goff a bust this week. So you and I are busting on some Lions fans. Wink, wink. If you know what I'm saying.
All right, sleeper over under contest. Gar, you've got a handful of them. I'm going to let you go first on this, even though you just talked, because the only one that I have is simple.
All right. Yeah, some sleeper over under bus or sleeper over under bus. Gee, sleeper over under contest. I like Barkley this week. Why can't I talk this morning, Josh? What the hell's going on here?
Hey, speak word is hard, you know.
All right, I like Barkley over 77.5. That Green Bay defense, Josh, I'm not going to sit here and shit on your team. Green Bay's 3-1. You know, you're not first in the division. We're first in the division. But that Green Bay defense has not been as advertised, and until such a time, Barkley has been balling out this week, so I love Barkley to keep pounding the rock this week. So I like Barkley over 77.5. Gerald Everett, we talked about him earlier. I like him over 41.5. He's done that 3 out of 4 games. So I love Everett this week as well. Teddy B. I mean, all he needs is like 2 Tyreek Hill houses to absolutely get broken off. Currently, the line is sitting at 243.5 passing yards. I love Teddy B over 243 because of what they're playing the Jets, right? So yeah, love Teddy B this week. And then Dobbins. I'm combining his rushing receiving yards because it seemed like he was getting plenty of receiving work early in that Buffalo game as well. So I love Dobbins over 65.5 rush and receiving yards combined. A lot of overs this week. Usually the overs don't hit as consistently as the unders, but I'm a bet man, Josh, and I'm going to put these contests in as soon as the show's over. So that's what I like. You want to counter any of mine? Maybe like Barkley or?
No. I think Barkley's going to have, you could have put a 1 in front of that 77.5 and probably hit it still.
Oh, no. What happened to your boys?
I'm not knocking the Green Bay defense because, like you said, they're 3-1. They're doing enough to get the job done. Last week, one of those touchdowns was if the play clock is 25 seconds, the play happened when the clock hit 30 seconds because the refs apparently decided to take a nap. So that touchdown, that would have pushed them back a bit, give them a little bit more things. And I think that, the players saw the play clock and just assumed that it was going to get blown dead. So they were kind of caught with their feet in the mud. But I do think Barkley's solid. Jones is hurt, so he's not going to be running that much, or he's got an ankle injury, so he's not going to be running as much, or you'd think that at least. And so Barkley's going to get his, so I think that that's a solid one. The other ones I have no comment on. Teddy B over 243 is probably the ones that scares me the most.
How
not
dare
necessarily.
you?
Not necessarily because, it is because he's coming off the bench. The teams have he did okay when he came in to fill in for Tua after Tua got hurt, but, now teams are going to know that it's Teddy B, so they're going to game plan for him. I think that 2 gloves is going to be not necessarily the solid play that many people are thinking. The
disrespect.
And then my over-under is whatever Al says, because Al helped me get a 5-piece last night or on Thursday. So, Al, shout out to you. You are good at gambling, even if you have an issue with it. I know you go to Gambling Anonymous just to tell everybody else they're quitters and bet on who's going to quit first from the GA. But
It's fucked up.
Al, congrats. I'm following you again into the trenches, even though I saw Gar with his... he agreed with it, and then he went and did the exact opposite of it in another bet. So,
absolutely, I spent $2 to be an asshole, so I thought it was funny. Anyways, Al's current 5-piece, he put together another one that literally everyone copied. He's got Justin Jefferson over 83.5. He's got Jalen Hurts over a touchdown, passing touchdown and a half, so 2 passing touchdowns. Damian Pierce, he's got over 67.5 rush yards. George Pickens over 39.5 receiving yards, and Romeo Dubs over 43.5 receiving yards. So that's what Al has. I feel like, I don't know, is Jalen Hurts going to end up only get 1 passing touchdown and 3 rushing touchdowns? Probably something like that. But that's Al's 5-piece.
That's the one that has me scared the most. But, like I said, got to roll with Al. He got me a win earlier. So, so that's the... I have no other comments on that. Damian Pierce, 66 yards. That should be an instant push because he got 75 on 1 last week. And I don't know if you saw the advanced metrics, the super stats or whatever they're calling it, next gen stats. On that play, his expected yard gain was only 7 yards, but then that boy made a move and it went from 7 to 75.
All right, love it. So those are our sleeper over-under takes. Big shout out to Al again, who did hit that 5-piece. Really quickly, Josh, then we'll get out of here. Just some weekly preview. Obviously, we've already had the Thursday night game. Russell Wilson looked tough. Mika put in the chat here. Drew Lock had through his first whatever it was, 5 games probably, had over 1,000 passing yards, 7-3 touchdown interception ratio, 64 completion percentage, 89.7 QBR, and a 4-1 win-loss, whereas Russ is 1,200 yards, so better, but only 4 touchdowns, which is worse, only 60% completion, which is worse, 82 QBR, and a 2-3 win-loss. Are they dead out there in Denver?
Yeah, probably. And like I said to you in a text message, that now that Russ is out of Seattle, I'm realizing that the reason I was such a Seattle hater was because of Russ and not Chompy. And so Chompy's growing on me a little bit more, just because he is so meme-worthy. Russ, on the other hand, he's just a robot. He is if he was a candy, he'd be unflavored spice drops. So he is just a goober.
All right, and then we got kicking off Sunday at 8:30 a.m. Central Time for us, folks. We got the Giants playing Green Bay. Josh, are Green Bay going to look good on national TV yet again?
No.
Now, are they going to win the game?
Yeah.
That's good.
It's going to be, I think it's going to be, they're going to try and one-up Denver and Indy, and they're going to go for a 15-12 game with all field goals.
All right. Eric, I see you're in the chat.
No, I'm just kidding. I would cry.
Oh, please don't cry, Josh. Are you going to be at the game? So are you going to skip church to watch Green Bay football, Josh? How strong is your faith?
Well, I mean, I could watch church at home online, so we'll see.
How convenient.
No, we have other plans that day too, so who knows what happens.
No, just kidding. Eric, I'd love to hear what you think about the Pittsburgh-Buffalo game in the chat if you want to hit up that real quick. And then we got Nikita here. She loves the Vikes. Vikes are playing home at noon versus Chicago. So I believe the spread is 7.5. Don't know if we cover that. Is that a bit of a trap game, you think, Josh? Or should the Vikings be able to just absolutely trample the Bears?
They should be able to trample them. I think they will, because the Vikings always lose at Soldier Field. So that's kind of the game that, they could be 25-point favorites and somehow find a way to lose by that much.
Sure. All right. Eric's just very simply put in the chat, it's Pickett season, so that means what? The Steelers are going to beat the Buffalo Bills 45-10 or what? What are we thinking here, Mr. Latvia? One other game while he's typing that out, I think that will probably be the most interesting to fans is Dallas, Los Angeles. Can Cooper Rush beat a good team like the Rams? And then Philly and the Arizona Cardinals. That should be an interesting game at 3:25 as well. So I'm interested to watch that. And then Eric says, time to get that second dub. Buffalo's probably not the right team to do it, but I appreciate the moxie, Eric's. Any other storylines or things you're looking forward to this week, Josh, or should we just get the hell out of here?
Go Packers.
All right, go Packers. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Don't forget, we've got our... yeah, maybe you'll get it by week 18 there, Eric's. All right, thank you, everyone, so much for listening. Don't forget to participate in our Discord like Eric's is right now. We greatly appreciate you. Also, shout out to Nikita for listening live. I'd say she's almost a Mrs. Unlimited, if you know what I'm saying. But yeah, we appreciate...
Don't put that on her. Don't you dare.
We appreciate everyone who participates in the Discord regularly. We really make it fun watching games on Sunday and talking shit about people. So thank you, everyone who continues to listen and participate. Segment start times are down there. And we will see you all Tuesday evening, 8 p.m. sharp, for some rants and some raves and some Week 5 analysis. So until then, thank you, everybody, and have a wonderful weekend. Bye-bye.
Go Packers.
Three wins not looking so bad now, is it, Eric's?